Earlier we mentioned that there are 4 edit modes. They are the shuffle, slip, spot, and grid modes. They're all found right up here. There are also shortcuts that take you to each of those modes, and those shortcuts are F1 for the shuffle mode, you can see it down here, F2 for slip, F3 for spot, and F4 for grid. I would make sure that you get those memorized because you'll be using those constantly. In shuffle mode, each clip is constrained by the other clips around it. So let's go ahead and go into shuffle mode. I've taken this little beatbox thing that I did earlier and I've sliced it up into individual clips. So in shuffle mode, if we decided we wanted to rearrange some of these slices or clips, we could do that by just clicking and then perhaps deleting. And you'll notice as I delete, all of the clips to the right will shift to the left to replace the space that's been removed by this clip. So I'll delete that now. You can see everything shifted to the right. We're short now of our 2-bar loop. So let me undo that. We can also grab any of these and move them to the left or to the right, and it rearranges the loops. So we can take any particular slice and place it in any location, and everything is going to move to the left or right to make room for that particular piece. This is an actually really cool, useful feature for reorganizing drum loops. So we could take this loop that we've got and just kind of rearrange it. Just grab a couple of things and move it around. That was a little different. Let's grab something else. So you can have fun in shuffle mode just editing drum loops and can come up with some nice creative parts. So that's shuffle mode. Slip mode, use the shortcut F2, allows us to move individual segments around or individual clips without being constrained at all. So we can move these around. We can also place one on top of another. If we delete that, it'll leave a hole where that clip was. You just undo that. So in slip mode, you can move any particular clip around and place it in any location. And it's not constrained by the grid or by the other clips around it. Spot mode also works fairly simply. All you need to do is go up and select spot mode from your edit mode choices, and then click on a specific clip. And once you do that, a dialog box will open asking you where you would like to place that clip. And you can place it either at a certain beat and bar location or perhaps at a timecode location, etc. So you can choose the type of time scale you want, as well as the location, the specific location that you would like that particular clip to be placed at. Grid mode can be selected by hitting F4. When in grid mode, your clips are constrained based on the grid values that you have selected right here. Right now I have a grid value selected of a quarter note, so I can only move this particular clip 1 quarter note at a time. You can see by that yellow outline where it's going to place this specific clip once I release the mouse. You can change your grid values. You can see the grid lines will also change. And this will constrain each clip based on the grid value you have selected. Each Pro Tools session uses a main timescale and a sub-timescale. The main timescale is the timescale used for transport functions, including selection starts, ends, and field lengths, also grid and nudge values. So you can see if we click right here on this disclosure triangle and we change the main timescale to maybe minutes and seconds instead of bars and beats, you'll notice when we do that, these numbers will all change to minutes and seconds, and the grid values will no longer be displayed in terms of beats and bars. So let's go ahead and change that to minutes and seconds. You can see now the grid values are based on seconds and the start and end times as well. And the main counter is showing minutes and seconds as well. Let's change our main timescale back to beats and bars. And we can also display a sub counter We can access that by clicking the disclosure triangle and saying Show Sub Counter. Then we can choose the timescale that we want to be displayed. I prefer having bars and beats as well as minutes and seconds, so this works fine for me. But if you wanted to use samples or some type of time code, you could select those for your sub counter as well. You can change your main timescale 3 ways. You can go up to the View menu, down to Main Counter, and select the timescale you would like to use. You can alternatively click right here on the disclosure triangle and choose the timescale you would like to use. And the third way is to actually go down here to the timescale rulers, and if the ruler is displayed that you want to use as your main timescale, all you need to do is click on that. So by clicking here, I can change the main timescale to minutes and seconds, time code, bars and beats. It does the same thing as clicking here. You can see the main timescale changes down here as well as our counter, or by up here in the View drop-down menu. So 3 different ways to do the exact same thing. Pro Tools has 2 basic ruler types. There are time-based rulers and conductor rulers. First of all, you can see all of the rulers that are available by clicking right here on the Ruler View Selector. And when you click there, you can see everything that is enabled or visible has a check by it. Everything that does not have a check by it is not presently visible. So we could turn all of these on if we wanted to. Now every time-based ruler and conductor ruler is visible. Everything above this line is a time-based ruler. Everything below this line is a conductor ruler. Oftentimes you'll hear them call these timeline rulers as well. So timeline or time-based rulers, they mean the same thing. So you can see a variety of options that are available for you. Right now I have all of them on. You can see here's the dividing line right here between time-based or timeline rulers and conductor rulers, which appear down here. If you would like to hide or see a ruler, you can do that up here in the View drop-down menu, going down to Rulers, and then select the rulers that you want to hide. So now I've deselected that one. Chord, I could also do the same with key signature, and you see they go away. You can easily hide any of these rulers if you have too many that are visible by simply Option clicking with a Mac or Alt clicking with a PC any of the undesirable rulers. So we mentioned earlier that the Option on a Mac or Alt keys on a PC would give you the reverse function. One of the other things that it does is also hides views. So Option or Alt on a Mac or PC reverses and also hides. The main timescale that you have selected is marked in gray. You can see if I click on here, it changes up here as well as previously mentioned. So right now our main timescale is bars and beats, and you'll notice that if I Option click on that or go here and try to deselect it, it doesn't allow me to do that. So you can only deselect a timescale that is not your main timescale. You can also change the order of your rulers by simply clicking on them and dragging them to a new location. Your MIDI controls can be found in 2 different locations. The first is in your Edit toolbar here in your Edit window. If for some reason you don't see these, it's just because the MIDI controls aren't on, so come over here and make sure that they are toggled on. And the second location is in the Transport window. You can see here's your MIDI controls here. So let's talk about each of these. The first button is the Wait for Note button. This is used when you want to record MIDI data and you don't want Pro Tools to start recording until you actually play your keyboard. So even though I just hit the record button, you can see it's flashing, but nothing is occurring. Pro Tools is not operating yet. As soon as I play my keyboard, which I'm doing right now, Pro Tools starts to record. So that can be very useful when you want to start recording at a very specific location. The next button is the metronome button. This allows you to turn on and off your metronome from one easy to reach location. So if we go to the beginning of our piece and click the metronome button, if we have a metronome set up, it will play. There's also a shortcut associated with that. It's the 7 on your 10 key pad. So if I hit 7 on my 10 key pad, it turns the click off. 7 turns it on. You can change your metronome or click options a couple of different ways. First way is to go up to Setup menu and down to Click and Count Off. And the second way is to double-click on the metronome button. Both of these options give you the same dialog box, which allows you to change how your click operates, as well as if you want to set up and trigger a MIDI click. The next button is the MIDI merge button. When the MIDI button is pressed or is blue, it allows you to overdub additional information onto a MIDI track without erasing the underlying data. The next button is the conductor track. There are essentially two ways to operate Pro Tools. One is in manual mode. In manual mode, you can just select a tempo and enter it. And the second way is to press the conductor track. And in this case, Pro Tools will follow the tempo ruler. So this is how you create interesting tempo changes and variations in your song, is by having Pro Tools essentially slaved to the tempo ruler. And you'll notice over here the tempo changing following that ruler, and it's also grayed out, meaning that you can't just click on this and change it. When the tempo ruler enable button is pressed, or the conductor track button is pressed or blue, it's only following the tempos on the tempo ruler. So if you want to manually change a tempo, you have to leave that mode and change a tempo manually. There are count-off controls that can also be set and used. To enable a count-off, you just click on count-off button right here, and it'll tell you it's going to give you 2 bars of count-off. So if I go ahead and hit play, it's going to play for 2 bars and then start playing. We can also double-click right here and access the Click and Count Off Options dialog box. And you can see that we can change count-off options, including to only have it count off during record, and also change the amount of bars that we would like to have Pro Tools count off for us. We can also use the 8 on the 10 key pad to turn on and off our count off. So the shortcuts you've been given in this section on MIDI controls are 7 to turn on and off the metronome, 8 to turn on and off the count off, and 9 to turn on and off MIDI merge. The T key on your QWERTY keys is also really useful in setting manual tempos. So all you need to do is come over here, click on the existing tempo, and then hit the T key repeatedly at the tempo you wish to have your session run at. And you can see it's taking the average of my hits on the T key, and then you just hit return or enter, and now your session will play at the designated tempo. You can also click on the tempo right here as well, and then just click on it and raise or lower the tempo. And you can also just type in the tempo.